Well, g'day folks. It's hard to believe it's that time of year again, but I'm back with my friend Matthew KIDMAN, and after the wild ride that was 2020, a bit up and down.
It was terrific. It was a lot of fun. Never seen that before.
Well, let's get into our predictions for 2021, find out if our fundies are bullish or bearish on the outlook for equities.
Chris, no one picked 2020, and it was an amazing year. Now you get the chance to tell us what's going to happen in 2021 with the market. Bullish, bearish, where do you sit?
Matt, we typically don't make market calls.
That's not good enough. Come on.
It's not good enough. It's so unpredictable. It was unpredictable last year. In fact, I saw you ask people this question last year, and I bet even if they guessed that the market was going to be up 13% going into Christmas, they wouldn't have guessed what path it was going to take. But having said that, there's a lot of reasons to be bullish about stocks, global stocks this year. We're seeing vaccines for the virus being administered as recently as today. We know that the economies around the world aren't going into massive shutdowns anymore. There's trillions of dollars of fiscal stimulus have been pumped into the economies around the world. Central banks are expanding their balance sheets. They've committed to low interest rates for the foreseeable future. These are all great things for stocks, and the aggravator in chief is out of office starting next year as well. So things are a little bit more benign on that front.
Who could have predicted 2020? What a crazy ride it's been. And, we've seen some stocks sitting there at record highs, and I think some stocks legitimately that have had their business fundamentals, permanently improved as a result of these pandemic-related changes. But ultimately, I think it really needs to be a stock-by-stock call. Some stocks, overpriced, and some stocks, are showing value on a long-term basis. So I think, you're not going to rope me into a 2021 call, but do we overall still have an opportunity to find value? Yes, we do, but there's a whole lot of overvaluation out there as well.
Look, it's really hard to say. What we are optimistic about is that rotation to value. Can't say how long lasts for, but what we've seen is a raft of positive vaccine news. You've had good health outcomes here in Australia, and you've got unprecedented monetary and fiscal stimulus. So that should help improve the earnings of cyclical companies. So what we're talking about here are financials and materials. So we're confident that those should benefit in this environment. What we can't say is how the other side will behave. So your tech stocks or your rate-sensitive stocks that have had the benefit of lower rates, but not necessarily earnings uplift.
I'll say it again, we're actually bullish. We tend to be quite conservative, but we think there's valuation support across different sectors in the market. There is some overhype and there is some bubble activity, particularly in tech, but there's other sectors where there's heaps of valuation support, there's heaps of opportunity. We're talking a smorgasbord in small cap and micro cap at the moment, so we're finding a lot of opportunity out there. You're seeing M&A activity, you're seeing all the construct of actually making good money in small cap for the next couple of years.
I'm a bull. Two main reasons for that: low interest rates and economic recovery. Low interest rates we're going to have for quite a long time, and that's supportive for valuations. And economic recovery, who would have thought that we would rebound from a global pandemic here in Australia, particularly the way we have. All of the economic indicators are at multi-year highs, or certainly very strongly recovering. So the combination of low interest rates and consumer sentiment at 10-year highs, business confidence strong, really good indicator for good, strong earnings growth next year. The equity market may end up not quite as high as earnings growth, but I still think there's plenty of upside for next year.
Well, let's hope the pandemic is going to get better and we have vaccinations. But I think you have to be selective. You have to have a look at some areas have done really, really well, so probably be cautious there. But overall, it's always about looking at what companies you want to invest in and be selective, really.
I'm bullish for next year. I think you're going to see quite strong earnings per share growth right across the market, which has been something that's been missing for years in Australia now. And I think you're going to see a surge in consumer confidence. There's still a lot of stimulus to flow through. And I think there's a lot of cash that's still looking for a home. So I think we'll hit an all-time high next year at some stage.
Look, we're small cap stock pickers, so we don't really have macroeconomic calls. Having said that though, I think 2021's going to be a bullish year for equities. So we've had a lot of government stimulus in the pipes. We've got an ultra low interest rate environment. And I think what you've seen a little bit of, but you're yet to see the full extent when borders open up, when restrictions ease off, is really that pent up consumer demand come through. Certainly online retailers and furniture retailers have had a great run, but I think there's some still pent up demand to go. The other thing is I think businesses will also start either investing or acquiring, and you've already seen that with the likes of Link and Coke being taken over. So I think that's a trend that'll continue in 21 and will mean that equities perform strongly.
Look, I think markets are set for another bullish year. I think 21 is going to be an up market for investors. I think this year was characterised by being contrarian. You made money betting that COVID wasn't going to destroy the global economy. Next year, I think the trade is staying with consensus. And so I think in that sense, the Australian market particularly is very well primed for a strong year. Banks and resources chiming together, Aussie dollar going to 85 cents, international money flowing into our equity market. Australia's set for a good year.
Matt, we've had the fundies through. You farm their knowledge. 2020, a rocky year. What did you learn about what to expect in 2021? And are you a bull or a bear?
I'd like to be a really strong bull, but the problem that's happened over the last, I'd say 2 to 3 months, and it accelerated with the vaccines, is that there's not a bear in the market. You cannot find one. So that gives you a red flag, but I think we might go a bit through a rough, choppy patch, but the reality is I'm also bullish because I love recoveries. Recoveries are terrific for companies because their margins expand, their costs don't come back on, but the demand picks up. So we'll get a lot of earnings growth this year. Interest rates are low, but I think you've got to be careful about where you're at because I think the dollar keeps trucking up. It's on a trend and the trends last for years. So I think overseas earners, as they have done over the last 2 or 3 months, might underperform. I think you want to be in the domestic market with companies exposed to that domestic market. I think we can get 14-15% return this year.